3.
Hey! I won nothing.
I won everything.
I won half.
There you go.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, listeners.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Oh, yeah, I
Christmas.
forgot. We do a podcast, didn't we? We have to
Yeah, we
speak.
do a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It is audio based.
That was the sound of us pulling Christmas crackers, by the way.
All right, so we've each got a little present.
I got a deck of cards.
I got a little.
What did you get?
I don't know. What
It's a
is that?
hairband.
It's a little hairband.
And I got luggage tags.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah,
Hell
Christmas.
yeah.
Corey, could you please explain scientifically how the cracking sound in Christmas crackers works?
A little bit of gunpowder. It goes boom.
Is it really?
Did you know?
I don't know. I think so.
That's amazing.
When I bought these, I got ID'd
Oh, because of the gunpowder.
because of the gunpowder.
Because of the gunpowder
They're
plot.
miniature.
more like.
They're little miniature fireworks.
Oh, I need to take off my beanie.
Well, I have got the podcast a Christmas present,
Hold on, I'm trying to get my hat on.
a collective Christmas present.
I had
Corey
to
is
put my hair in a bobble
trying to get. Oh, you've got the same hat, and then James has got a different color hat.
Yeah.
because he's
Oh.
different from us.
I'm special.
You've got like the dunce cap on.
Get a Sharpie and draw a D on it.
Yeah, all right. Let's do it. No, that's not.
No, that's too
I
much.
haven't got a Sharpie.
Okay. Who wants to open the SCI GUYS Christmas present? Wow, nobody?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Let James do it. I'm gonna clear up.
Corey.
I assumed Corey would say yes.
So,
I
Corey,
got scared.
Oh, okay. So did I. So it's okay. We all get scared sometimes.
so Corey, the reason I got this present for the SCI GUYS is because I saw it in a
How
shop
the fuck?
and I was like, I don't know how this works and I want to know. So I'm going to ask Corey and present him with this gift. So how does this work?
Oh.
Have you put me on the spot?
Yes, please
Great.
tell me how this
Yeah.
works.
It
James,
is-
explain what it is.
It's a magic growing tree.
Oh dear. Let me have a look.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like candy floss.
So it says, watch the crystals grow in hours. Oh, okay. What's it made from? It looks like.
Oh, I did something similar to that in primary school.
It
No,
is.
no,
I
I
have
did-
essentially bought you both a children's gift.
It is just
Oh, yeah.
something that makes crystals,
we are children though.
right?
Yeah, so I guess it's just crystallization.
Yeah. So there's some chemicals that crystallize.
I'm going to get you some water so you can do it.
Oh,
right
we're
now.
doing it right now.
Hell yeah,
Okay.
we are.
Oh my god.
Oh, and over the course of the in hours, it's not going to take us that
It
long.
crystallizes in hours, and we're recording 2 episodes today, so it
Oh,
will
we'll be able to
crystallize.
find at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
really
Advice-
unwraps toys.
Thank you. Advice for supervising adults. Read and follow these instructions, the safety rules, and the first aid information, and keep them for reference. Oh, wow. Incorrect use of chemicals can cause injury and damage to health. Let's do it.
Cool. Let's incorrectly use these chemicals, guys.
Okay.
We're filming it. We can monetize it. It's
Hell
fine.
yeah.
This is difficult.
And
Hold
I'm
on.
guessing you now just take the liquid that crystallizes and put it in the little bit at the bottom.
Oh, I've not done the base right. Hold on. There we go.
And so the crystals grow all the way up the tree.
I guess they convect. Is it convect? They move from a state of low density to high density, i.e., they climb the
So
structure of the
you
tree.
are thinking of diffusion.
Ah.
But I think this is probably something to do with cohesion and adhesion, which is, or it could be to do with. It's probably I don't really know what it's to do with. Look, there's so many different things. I don't
You were
know
so
this off the
close.
top of
You
my
know,
head.
Corey, I was about to say, this is why I bought the gift, because Corey couldn't have fun explaining it, and then he gave up explaining it.
It could be so many things. Capillary action, it could be because it's a very absorbent material. Oh dear, which is it's a salt, I believe. So it's probably a salt and dissolved in
Oh, this is lovely wine.
in water, which will then crystallize. Let's just rip it open. Oh dear, I'm pouring. I've done it. I spilled it on my fingers.
Oh.
Okay, so basically, for people listening at home, and for people not listening at home because it's not even in frame on the video,
It's really difficult. Luke. I couldn't do it. There we go. I poured it in.
it has been poured into this little base, and you can see slowly the liquid is climbing up the incredibly dry paper that forms the Christmas tree, which means that it's moving from a state where there's a high density of liquid to a low density of liquid, i.e. up the tree, and then somehow, we don't know how, it will crystallize to form a nice little tree.
So it's probably moving up through capillary action because it's very there's very I can't be bothered explaining this. Look,
Okay.
you put me on the spot
What? As in there are very tiny little holes in the Christmas tree?
because it's kind of absorbent. It will
Right, okay.
something like that, or it's just like it's okay. So it's kind of like when you put a sponge in to water and the sponge will just suck
The
up
whole
water.
sponge gets wet. Like those adverts for really good
Kitchen roll, yeah,
kitchen roll.
yeah.
It's basically, I bought you kitchen roll
You bought
and
me-
salt for Christmas. You're welcome, guys.
I don't know if this is safe to get on my hands, but I'll do it anyway. Don't try this at home.
Do it for the pod.
They wouldn't sell it to kids if it was unsafe.
They sell so many unsafe things to kids.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. All right, should we start the show? Merry Christmas.
Merry
shit,
Christmas!
We've got a whole show to do.
Yeah, that's not the
That's
end,
it.
James.
Damn. Start the show.
Hello and welcome to the SCI Guys, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird, and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jamp and Luke Cutforth.
Hello.
I wish we had Christmassy names.
I did try and think of one, but
Did you? Oh.
for about 5 minutes, and then I got bored.
Well,
Jample bells. And
Deck the halls with boughs of Corey.
if only we had Deck on the
that's
show.
good.
Deck
Yeah.
would be good.
Yeah.
Deck the halls.
Oh, Deck, yeah. We know a Deck. This week, we're talking about the Newtonian Nativity.
What?
Oh, Newton. He was born on Christmas, wasn't he?
He was.
See, it's Christmas themed.
So Merry Christmas to all of our cool listeners and happy holidays to the uptight ones. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, then it's Christmas time. If you've come looking for a Christmas special, then I will not disappoint you. This week, we're talking about the real nativity story. This is the life of Sir Isaac Newton.
I love him.
Ooh.
Oh.
He had a few laws, didn't he?
I think everyone has laws that we live by.
Yeah.
But he made some of his
He
own.
made some up.
He did
Much
make
more
his own,
impressive.
didn't he? Yeah.
He actually told physics what to do. He made up a few laws that they had to abide by.
Yeah, before that, they were just running amok. It was
Before, they were
anarchy.
just doing whatever they wanted.
There is
What do you
actually
mean?
a theory, which I really like, which is that gravity didn't exist until Newton discovered it.
Just nobody mentioned that it didn't exist. It was just, it came into being.
The apple was actually the first thing ever to fall to the ground.
And he was like, aha, this thing has happened once. I will make it a law now.
So, as you said, Sir Isaac Newton was born on Christmas Day, the 25th of December. But much like Jesus, he wasn't actually born on the 25th of December.
Really?
No, he was also born on the 4th of January.
Well,
Just like Jesus.
Well, no, Jesus was born in July.
Sorry, you said that like he was also born
Oh,
on the 4th of January.
What I mean is...
Hinting that maybe Sir Isaac Newton was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
There is a reincarnation in this story. So, Sir Isaac Newton was also born on the 25th of December, 1642. And also...
Just like Jesus.
Yes. And also...
the same,
Stop using the
same
word
day.
also
Oh, wait,
unnecessarily.
hold on. And the 4th of January,
What?
1643.
Oh, because he was born again.
No, because they changed the calendars to the Gregorian calendar, which pushed everything by 11 days.
I just thought because he hadn't invented the laws of physics yet, time was just
Yeah, it
running
was just
amok.
going about until he was
Yeah.
like, no, we're going to stay still.
The day after Christmas was actually just January 4th.
How
back
do you
then.
know that the Gregorian calendar was actually instituted? Or maybe Sir Isaac Newton warped the fabric of space-time and the Gregorian calendar was instigated...
As Jesus would.
Yes, exactly. Is instigated in order to make up for the warping of space-time done by Sir Isaac Newton. You don't know that's not true, Corey.
I don't know that's not true.
Checkmate science.
So let's skaze on by. Look, if you think you know anything, do you know anything about Sir Isaac Newton?
I know that
Very
he
little.
probably had an apple fall on his head but didn't
Yeah.
actually, and it's a story.
Yes, he was a lot weirder than you think as well.
Oh, great.
Whatever you think about him, he's weird.
he was
Really
quirky.
weird.
All right.
He's an
I'm
odd boy.
So ready for this. Merry Christmas, guys. One of your scientific heroes was a strange person.
That's literally every scientific hero. They're all weirdos and
It's
nerds.
literally all three of us.
It's honestly, yeah. To be honest, my favorite science stories are when scientists are actually very well adjusted and good with people and make lots of friends. Newton isn't one of them.
Are there any of
What do you
those?
hide?
Tesla, kind of. Remember?
Oh, okay.
He was a little bit.
Yeah, but he also thought that his brain was a channeling device for consciousness from another dimension. Not that I think that's wrong.
That's
but
what you think, Luke.
Yeah, sure. I think that too. But
Yeah.
That guy was great, but also he was called Luke. So do we trust anything he says?
I just mean that by science's current paradigms, that would be considered weird. So your example of Tesla is not a good example.
As in, he was like, Tesla was socially well adjusted. He could make friends. Newton,
That's a low bar.
That's
for
a really
science.
it's a low bar that Newton doesn't meet.
No man
Okay,
can
let's
have it
start
all.
off. I've got some fun facts that I just could not find a place for. So let's just start off with these.
Let's just dump him in.
So he was driven by a focus on observation. So rather than just trust texts for information, he stuck a needle in his eye once just to see what would happen.
Yes.
Good.
What happened?
Did it hurt?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what he was looking for or what he tried to do. He just stuck a needle in
He was
there.
looking for the needle.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
He
he was
was trying
looking
to
for.
find it, but he was
He was
looking
like,
at it
"Where's my eye?"
so sharp. Yeah. He just stuck a needle in his eye once. So he believed that God had specifically chosen him to interpret the Bible.
Wow.
And he concluded that the world would end no sooner than 2060. And I've got a nice little quote from
You're
him
just
here.
describing Luke.
Yeah, I think Luke, you are a reincarnation of Sir Isaac Newton.
I'll take it.
Is that the reincarnation?
He
you were
also
looking-
died a virgin as well. So,
Oh.
Just like me.
so a little quote from Newton. This I mention not to assert when the time of the end shall be, but to put a stop to the rash conjectures of fanciful men who are frequently predicting the time of the end, and by doing so, bring the sacred prophecies into discredit as often as their predictions fail. Basically, he said, it's going to end roughly before 2060, but I'm not going to say exactly when, because everyone else that's saying exactly when are just
wrong.
shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the world might actually end by 2060 because of climate change.
Climate
So
change, all the rest of
You
it.
never know. He could have been right.
Now,
you know the whole
just to
shebang.
inject a little bit of fairness into the scientific podcast that we run, the main theory, as far as I've read, behind the end of the world theories, behind these kind of like this will come and doomsday will come, or time will come and we'll ascend, is that, brace yourselves for it, the Earth undergoes a fifth dimensional split, and that people who are ready to go
Somehow I knew it was
go
coming
on
to
to
this.
the fifth dimensional split, and we mere mortals stay on the plane of existence, and we go, haha, so silly,
Silly.
that they thought the world would end, and actually they've ascended to
didn't
like a heaven
end.
world. I'm
Did you not say this was a scientific theory?
No, I said on our scientific podcast, I'll inject some fairness into
it's a theory.
what these
Oh,
people
okay.
think.
Okay.
Some of them
Okay.
think. That's kind of what New Age spirituality has done to address the fact that loads of people have predicted the end times and none of them seem to have come.
Wouldn't the Earth be ending like every day then?
Yeah, is it not an easier
so
conclusion
possibly,
just
yeah.
that they're a bit
Okay.
nuts?
Possibly that people just ascend, but then you could see it as that people like have waves of ascension, i.e. like
Right.
over time, maybe like people help each other. So you can see that like a sine wave, like the probability of ascension increases with time. And then when loads of people suddenly ascend, it decreases and then it will increase again. Anyway, that's what the New Age spirituality might say.
Might.
So, how does that work if people are still around? The people that can, prophesize the end.
I don't know how that works.
Okay,
Corey.
good. That's fine.
I'm just bringing in a different perspective.
I will bring in a different perspective and then say nothing on it.
Yes.
And that's it.
It's really
Goodbye.
fun to bring a different perspective that is inherently unprovable. That's a really good, it's a really
don't
fun
have
way
to-
of
you don't have to
looking
back
really
it up.
cool.
It's the worst way to win an argument, isn't it?
Sure.
Prove me wrong.
You can't prove me wrong, and I can't prove me right. So let's start. Oh, no, let's not start. My last fun fact is that he was a member of parliament for a year. And in his year as a member of parliament, he spoke up only once. And it was to ask someone to close a window. He was not very good at being a member of parliament.
I mean, he voted, I'm sure. That's the main thing.
Yeah, but they're supposed to speak up,
Yeah.
aren't they? That's kind of their job.
Well, not if they don't disagree with anything. They just,
guess.
I've made up my mind.
For a full year, Sir Isaac Newton sat there not disagreeing with anything.
Yeah.
No, that's like me on this podcast. I just agree. I just go with the flow. I'm like,
James has done this for
you know
nearly a
what?
year, Corey. Are you
know what?
criticising James's position in the podcast?
As an
That
MP,
sounds
yes, you're a
true.
terrible MP,
That
James.
sounds true. That's all good. Look, can you close the window for me? That sounds good.
Yeah, so there you go. And actually, the thing is, you say that he would be quite agreeable, but actually, we'll find out he's not the most agreeable man.
Oh,
So let's start at the start with his birth.
Okay, how was he born?
Good place to start.
Like most people, he
In
was
a manger
born.
in Jerusalem.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Just like me.
Well, just like all of us, Luke. No, so 3 months before he was born, his dad died.
Oh.
Yeah, so he never met his dad. What a
That's
shame.
sad.
Also, Galileo Galilei died that year before he was born.
Reincarnation.
Yeah, so Newton went on to finish Galileo's work.
Oh.
So actual
Reincarnation.
reincarnation. Yeah, as I told you it would come up.
Wow.
And now it has.
Wow.
And it's not going to come up again.
I fully believe it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't need any more evidence.
He was
behind
born
this.
premature and weak, and they didn't expect him to survive.
Me too.
Really?
Well, I was premature and weak. I'm not sure if they.
I still don't expect you to survive, mate.
I think I was literally 2 weeks late. I was just.
I was
stubborn.
2 weeks late also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did not want to come out.
I'm just overcooked.
So he was born that was good. And then he had a childhood, as most of us do. Well, actually, maybe not most of us. I don't know what the mortality rates are for children. Anyway, within 2 years of his birth, his mum remarried to a man named Barnabas Smith.
Barnabas.
Yeah.
There's not enough people called Barnabas.
I was going to say, what a great name.
I know a Barnabas. He
Do
is
you?
You actually?
from Budapest.
Is one of Jacob Rees-Mogg's children called Barnabas?
I don't
No,
want
I
to know.
think it's Boniface.
Boniface. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's awful.
It's like as the full name is like Jacob Christopher Boniface Rees-Mogg or something like that. It's like
It's his middle name.
yeah, it's one of his middle names.
Oh, okay.
Still not okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when he married Isaac's mother, did not include Isaac in the arrangement. So he shipped off Isaac to live with his grandmother. You know.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He just
Weird.
didn't want to deal with
wasn't
that
in
kid.
the agreement?
And so Isaac's mother, when Barnabas moved to a neighboring village to raise a son and 2 daughters, and left Isaac with his grandmother.
This turned out to be Isaac Newton, this kid.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
big mistake, man.
Oh, I thought you were like surprised. Yeah,
No,
that's
no.
who the story's been about this whole time.
Wow. Stupid mistake.
Yeah, so
It's like
apparently
Steve Jobs, where Steve Jobs was like cast aside by his parents and was adopted and had to deal with the problem of trying to deal with that as a kid, of learning that your parents didn't want you, and then to as part of the repercussions of that, he became Steve Jobs, and his parents were like, his like biological parents were like, whoa. Whoops.
We could have had a fortune.
Yeah, but also they couldn't have, because had they not given him up, he wouldn't actually probably have become Steve Jobs.
That's true.
So it's
True.
like, whoa.
he would have
how
been
do you
Steve
deal with
something
that?
else.
True.
Or maybe not even Steve. He would have
Yeah.
been Mark Strong.
Mark Strong.
Anyway, moving on. Yeah, so his mum left him for 9 years until Barnabas died. And apparently
And then
Isaac
she came crawling back.
to the 11-year-old. Apparently Isaac's pronounced psychotic tendencies were because of that traumatic event.
See, this is the thing. It's like we are all told in our society that mental health problems are like problems, as in like they're definitely bad. But so many of the brilliant artists and brilliant thinkers of the world have had mental health problems. And it's like, that's something to be inspired by, I think, that you have these incredible people and it's just that their brain thinks differently to other people. To spot something different that no one else has thought, you're going to need a brain that thinks differently. And you're also going to be sad about that because you don't fit in.
I mean, the guy absolutely had anxiety, I'm sure. Like, he secluded himself, and also he
Spent his
apples
whole
falling on
life
his
thinking that apples would have fallen on his
Apples are
head.
falling.
yeah,
The
so
apples are falling.
he really, really hated his stepdad. He actually, up until the age of 19, he would write lists. So actually, no,
love a
hold on.
good
It wasn't. So
Lists of what?
he would write lists of sins that he'd committed.
Oh, I
Earlier
thought
on-
it was going to be like,
Not a
I
hit-
used to write
a hit
lists of like
list.
who my best friends are.
No.
My mind went to hit list. Stepdad.
So I said that he was 11. He was actually about 19 still when his stepdad
What
was
sins
alive.
had he committed by the age of
Blimey.
11?
Well, no. So he was 19 by the time he'd finished writing his lists. And one of those, I'll read out.
Technically, you're never done writing that list.
Oh, that's true.
Because like you'll stand on a bug every day.
Well, no, if you
True.
don't write on the list again, then you're done.
And if you don't sin again.
No, it's not all of his sins, just the sins he'd committed up until the point that he'd written the
I
list.
see.
Oh, so all the ones afterwards don't count.
Look, I'll read out some of his lists for you. Using the word God openly, eating an apple at thy house.
An
Oh,
apple.
Yeah.
well, that got him back in the end, didn't it?
It did, yeah, it did.
One fell on him.
Striking many.
What?
Just says striking many.
Okay.
Wishing
That
death.
sounds like just punching random people in the street.
yeah.
I've been striking many.
Wishing death and hoping it to some. 21 and 22 here are a relapse and a relapse.
Oh, we had 2. That's not good.
Yeah, 2 relapses. Right, one right after the other.
Oh,
I suppose you could just call that one relapse, couldn't you?
I guess.
A great one that I love is the one about his stepdad and his mother. Threatening my father and mother Smith to burn them and the house over them.
Wow.
Yeah,
Whoa.
he did not like him. He threatened to burn the house down. So yeah,
Go
that's
off,
just
sis.
some of his lists that he.
Newton really snapped with this one.
And stealing cherry cobs from Edward Storer. Don't
Oh.
know.
Bad man.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. One more. Having unclean thoughts, words, and actions and dreams. But because this was before English was standardized, he spelt dreams Dreamese.
Dremes.
He was Spanish.
Dreamies.
He was felt a little bit bad about himself.
We've all been there.
So after Barnabas died, his mother had a lot of property because two men had
she
died.
did.
Barnabas had a lot of property.
Legend.
Yeah, I know. Good for her. So she thought, you know what I'll do? I'll get my wee son, Isaac, who's 19, to look after my estate. Because he'll be good at that, won't he? He was not good at that. So when he was supposed to be like looking after the cows and stuff, sometimes he'd just curl up and under a tree and read a book.
Yeah.
Just not deal with the cattle.
He was
Yeah.
busy inventing physics.
Well, yeah, not yet. He was just
Wow.
reading. Like a nerd.
Oh, okay. He was conceptualizing physics.
When Newton arrived in Cambridge in 1661, the scientific revolution was right in the swing. The scientific revolution is effectively the switch to the heliocentric ideals. So, which is basically the switch from everything revolving around the Earth to everything revolving around the
Galileo.
Sun. Yeah,
Nice.
who we
Yeah.
mentioned previously.
Who he was the reincarnation of.
Yep,
Brilliant.
you're damn right. So yeah, people had started to conceptualize new meanings of physics, and Newton was right in there when that was happening. He started studying maths. He started off with algebra and geometry, and then he invented calculus.
Nice.
That's quite a jump you just made there, Corey.
Math didn't exist before him.
Yeah, he just decided to make calculus happen. Do you guys know what calculus is?
That was my next question. What's calculus?
Yeah, I didn't take calculus at all.
So I mean, it's a good way to find slopes of curves and areas under curves. I'm sure you've done calculus before.
I
I'm sure.
probably
Oh, I
have. I
did a
just don't
bit
know
of
that
it.
it's called calculus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's when you're trying to find the slope of something or the area under a curve.
I've done a bit of that.
It's the study of how things change.
Yeah.
It's a way to model the change of things, but with very, very small little changes, which we call infinitesimal changes, which is like working out instantaneous changes in speed, which is how we figured out acceleration by using calculus. It's much easier. The reason that calculus is good is because it's much easier to model those changes. Like it's much easier to model acceleration and speed when you're using calculus rather than trying to figure it out over a larger space of time, because you're using basically instantaneous changes.
Yeah.
I get it.
I do understand what you mean, but I also don't. But I do.
Instead of thinking, okay, over 5 seconds something has changed, you're looking at every instant.
On a graph.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a graph.
Oh, you're not looking. You're using calculus instead of looking at the graph.
Is
Using
it
calculus to
where
figure
they
out-
looking
started
at-
figuring out rate of change
Yeah.
as opposed to just change?
Yeah, effectively.
Cool. I get that.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty straightforward. Calculus sounds like it's difficult, but actually it's pretty easy.
It does. It's always bigged up in like movies and stuff.
It is,
Like
isn't it?
American high school movies. It's like, oh, I've got calculus.
I've got pre-calc.
Got pre-calc.
It sounds like some STD.
Makes you sound smarter.
Pre-calc doesn't make. What is it?
No, I just mean
AP
calculus
Calc.
in general.
Yeah, AP calculus.
Calc.
AP Calc.
So, do you know what happened in Cambridge in 1665? Think about history.
1665. Did Sir Isaac Newton have an apple fall on his head?
No. Well, maybe.
Oh,
Look, the plague came to Cambridge.
Ah, okay.
didn't know
Too
that.
excited for that. Look, it was the bubonic plague. That's a bad thing. People died.
Did the plague fall on his head?
No.
Did he get the plague?
No, he left Cambridge so that he didn't get the plague.
Wow, privilege. Imagine being able to move just because there's an illness coming.
He was at university. Of course
Yeah.
he'd go home. Cambridge was closed because of the plague.
He's a physicist.
Oh,
he
Cambridge was closed because
he
of the
just
plague.
built a
I'm
plague.
fairly
He
sure.
He didn't go home to avoid the plague. He went home because Cambridge was closed.
Because of the plague.
Yes, but he went home because
By
Oh, so
No.
it wasn't his decision.
I think it probably was his decision as well. Look,
Okay.
whether or not Cambridge was closing, if the
I think
plague
I'd
was
choose to
coming,
run from
I'm
the
sure
plague.
he would leave.
But how do
Yeah.
you know it's coming?
Well,
Because he hears things.
you'd hear,
He hears things?
the talk of the
people
talk
be
of the
talking-
town.
Yeah, exactly. People be like, "Hey, you hear the plague's coming?" Yeah, I heard the plague's coming.
I heard someone down the street just started vomiting like
You heard
black shit.
Mary.
Right.
She's got the plague.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Lady Gwendolyn down the street. She's dead.
Although it was Cambridge in the 1600s, so there probably wouldn't have been many women there.
Oh, Barnabas just down the street.
Got the plague.
He got the plague.
So he went home and he started thinking just about a lot of stuff.
Cool. I always think about lots of things,
Yeah.
regardless of what I'm doing.
Okay, so this is where the Apple story came from.
The Apple Store.
Oh.
The Apple. Yep. Sir Isaac Newton, we're talking about Steve Jobs, but actually it was Sir Isaac Newton that invented the
Steve
first
Jobs
Apple
was
store.
born in
That is
1665.
brilliant. You know, the first Apple logo was like an art piece of Sir Isaac Newton under the tree with the apple falling on his head. It's like a beautiful drawing. And it was like the Apple logo used to be this absolutely beautiful drawing.
Oh, I thought you meant the Apple logo. They took the Apple logo from an apple. And I was like, but the Apple logo's got a bite out of it. If it's falling on his head, it shouldn't have a bite.
There you go. So think about the minimalism of the Apple logo, right?
Yeah.
And now this is the original logo.
Oh, wait.
That looks like
Apple
that looks like a
Computer
logo
Co.
for snake oil.
It's fine.
Well, that's the original Apple logo.
It's terrible.
They went from that-
Congratulations.
Yeah, strange, isn't it?
Thank you.
I do have a purpose.
So skipping over the Apple, I'm going to go to his reflecting telescope.
Okay.
Just to tease you. Just a little bit of a teaser there.
Right.
Ooh. So he was working with refraction and whatnot, trying to figure out, stuff about light. And he was also looking at the stars and all of that other lovely stuff. So he figured out that white light is actually made up of all the colors of the spectrum. Which,
Obviously.
That's true.
right? It's surprising that no one had figured that out up until then.
Sure.
But he did that. And he was certain that...
So he did the prism
All
as
of
well.
them.
Well, he didn't make... I don't think he made
No,
the prism.
Pink Floyd did the prism.
Oh, my mistake. Yeah.
On the dark side of the moon, didn't they?
Yeah.
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 So he did the prism. No, he didn't do the prism. I don't know who did the prism. He was working with the prisms. Okay.
Okay.
The
yeah.
prism.
And he was certain that light was made of particles and not waves.
Well, he was wrong.
Everyone was wrong. No one could be right.
Yeah,
until,
that's true. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a proper argument with someone over this as well. It's this guy called Robert Hooke. They did not get on. Robert Hooke said, "I don't like your methods. I think you're stupid. And also, light is made of waves."
If you'd like
Robert
to hear more about
Hooke.
Robert Hooke and his eventual downfall, you can listen to episode 10 of the podcast, where I talked extensively about his thing.
You
Oh.
did.
Yeah.
I started with Robert Hooke.
Oh,
Saying
you
that
did.
Newton and Robert Hooke were arguing over whether particles and
Oh.
waves.
So you did.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go listen to episode 10 then.
And they really were arguing for years to the point that Isaac suffered a mental breakdown. And he withdrew from the
sad.
public eye
That's not
in 1678. He returned later on. He was doing
That's not
gravity right about then. So he got, he was very temperamental.
Oh.
His argument with Robert Hooke forced him to just get out of the public light. At which point he started thinking about gravity. So way back when he was avoiding the plague, he apparently watched an apple fall from a tree.
Apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah.
No one knows. The story is that it hit him on the head. Nobody really thinks that's true. He said that he saw an apple fall in the garden and he was starting to think about why it fell straight down.
Why did
and
it fall?
Not another way.
What do you mean, why did it fall, James? Have you never been to
why did it
school?
No, I'm just saying he probably asked.
Okay.
Why did
I
it
thought
fall?
you were
No,
inquiring.
I'm telling you what he asked.
I know why it fell.
He asked why did it fall straight down.
Well,
He
I think
knew
I know why it fell.
Yeah. He was more questioning why it fell the way it did rather than the fact that
Oh, that it fell at all. Okay.
people kind of knew what gravity was before.
Right.
It's not like he was like, gravity. That's what
Guys,
makes things go towards the ground.
Have you noticed that when you drop something, it falls?
No one had thought to question that before.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think we live in this.
we should look into that.
We live in this age where like everything's so obvious to us because we've been taught it, and it's
Yeah.
like actually really nothing's obvious, and some of the stuff you've been taught that you think is obvious is probably not even true. So like,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
effectively, I think people basically knew about the concept of gravity. What Newton did was figure out how it works
yeah,
and what the actual principles and laws of it are.
because it's a big jump to go. Physical matter draws other physical matter towards itself. Like that's a big thing to work out or
Yeah, it
suggest.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the weakest force that we've got. And he's just like, yeah.
And it turns out it's not
Figuring
even
that
true. Physical matter doesn't draw physical matter towards itself. Supposedly, physical matter warps the basis of space-time, and
Which then-
space-time makes other matter fall towards it like it's in a little dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is functionally like
The same thing.
the same thing.
Yeah.
But
Like
yeah.
if you take a sheet and put a marble on it, it's going to go down a bit on
Yeah.
the sheet.
It's
If
gonna
you
draw
put
other
another
marbles.
all the other marbles going to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how gravity works, effectively.
As far as we know.
But in 3D
We
space.
don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
Let's just pretend that we do.
True.
Yeah, that's the whole of science. Woo!
So he started exploring the his theories of motion and gravity after he saw that apple fall, supposedly. So in 1684, an English astronomer, Edmund Halley, who you might know
Have we talked about him
Did we talk about
previously?
him before in another podcast?
from a little comet known as...
Oh, the Halley's Comet.
Halley? Is it Halley?
Halley's Comet.
I thought it was Haley.
Halley's Comet. That comet that's named after Halley.
Or Halley.
Yeah, it must be Haley.
It's double L.
I was going to say Haley,
Halley's
but that's
Comet.
the wall.
Halley?
Halley?
See, I thought it was Halley, and then I was like, but Halley's Comet sounds... It doesn't really matter.
No.
That comet, okay?
Yeah, that
Edmund
comet.
came by, and he learned that apparently Newton had mathematically worked out elliptical paths of celestial bodies, which effectively means he worked out orbits of planets.
That aren't perfectly spherical.
Yes.
Blimey.
An ellipse is like what happens when you get a circle and you squash it just a little bit.
Tiny bit.
You put a circle in your back pocket and you're sitting on it for a bit and you realize afterwards, you're like, oh no.
Oh, no.
My
circle.
We've all been there.
Gone
So
through many a circle.
that man, the Comet Man, I'm not saying his name again. The Comet Man got Newton to organize his notes, and then he published Philosophy Naturalis Principia Mathematica, which is the mathematical principles of natural philosophy, which established the 3 laws of motion and the law of universal gravity. Do you know what Newton's laws of motion are? Take one
there's
each.
The 3 ones. Is
Yes,
there 3?
there's 3.
Okay. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
That's number 3.
Number 1 is a thing will not move unless acted on by a force or something or other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But with
So-
different words.
Yeah, so every object in a state of uniform motion will remain in that state of motion unless
it's
an
acting.
external force acts
it.
on it.
So that's
That's exactly what I
what's it
said
called?
word for word.
that is
In fact, it's the reason that if you were to fire a bullet in space,
It would just
it's never
keep
gonna see
going.
anything again.
yeah. What's that called again? As a process?
Inertia.
Inertia,
yes.
yeah. So
And what's the
effect- yeah.
second law?
So the second law is force equals mass times acceleration.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
The
that's the easy
equation.
one. That's the little
Yeah.
equation. But yeah, so the first law basically means that if something's standing still, you need to push it to make it move, and if something is moving at a constant speed, you need to push it
Push
to
it
change its speed.
to make it stop.
That doesn't really happen on Earth because we've got air in the way,
Yeah.
which is constantly pushing on stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're out in
bit
space
of
and you
resistance
threw a
there.
ball, it's
Just
gonna
keep going forever,
it's
wouldn't
not
it?
gonna
Just
stop
like,
going.
Unless
just
it
like
hit-
Neil Armstrong's poo.
Oh yeah,
It's just going on
it's
forever
going.
and ever.
It's still flying at the same speed that it was ejected at.
That must be weird, man.
Unless
Being
it's hit like a meteorite or a comet or
That'd be very unlikely.
The chances of that are minuscule.
Yeah.
And actually, I think
could happen though.
so. If you were to fire a bullet in space, apparently, because of the rate of the expansion of the universe, it's never going to see anything else again.
Wow.
Oh.
Supposedly, I can't, totally confirm that, but yeah. Wow. Don't fire a bullet in space,
Gotta have
or
pretty
do
good
because
aim.
no one's going to get
Nah,
hurt.
if you're going to fire a bullet in space, that's right. If you're going to fire a bullet,
Do it in
Do it
space.
in space. That's the safest place to have.
Probably
Do you know
not
what?
gonna hit
Everyone's
anyone.
allowed to have guns so long as they're in space.
Guns in space.
Yeah, that won't age well.
Oh no! Imagine.
Haven't you seen Star Wars?
You're gonna get like if you imagine you become like prime minister in like 50 years when we have like a space fleet, and then they're like, Corey said once that if you're gonna have guns, do it in space.
50 years when I'm 72.
Yeah, there are some
Yeah.
old prime ministers and presidents.
I've got better stuff to be doing when I'm 72. Like dying.
Like this podcast.
Both fundamentally the same thing to me. So those are Newton's 3 laws of motion. Nothing will move unless you move it. Force equals mass times acceleration. And for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Which I should explain quickly. Which basically means
Yeah,
if you
you
push on
should.
something, it's pushing back on you. So I'm pushing on this chair
Rude.
with the same force that the chair is pushing on me.
And that's why you're not falling to the floor or flying up into space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. So, the universal law of gravitation that Newton came up with states that 2 objects attract each other with a force of gravitational attraction that's proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between their centers.
Is that
That
GMM
makes complete sense.
something R squared?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
What
I can't
does
speak
that
that in my
mean?
head. Sure. Basically, the bigger something is, the more attracted stuff is to it.
Good.
The farther away something is, the less attracted something is to it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you've got something really big and really close, you can be pulled.
If there's a really hot person, the further they go away, the less attractive they become.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good example.
There you go.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Fine. I'm okay with that. And all of this allowed him to calculate the mass of the planets and their orbits and the flattening of the Earth at the poles. He just calculated a lot of stuff based on that stuff that he figured out. He's a very smart cookie. And bearing in mind, none of this is with, measuring the Earth from space or anything. This is just him using some maths.
Yeah, it's kind of mad that he came up with this stuff where he was ignoring air resistance, even though nobody had ever been in a situation where there was no air resistance.
Did they know there was no air in space?
I don't know. That's why it's so weird. Or maybe he just came up with the equation and it was mildly inaccurate because of the air resistance, but he didn't really care because it was close enough.
Maybe they weren't able to measure it closely enough, so it didn't even seem inaccurate.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just used maths, which
Maybe.
makes sense.
Derived it from
Oh, because he was doing planets, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. So he was
Yeah.
observing planets.
Yeah, he was doing planets.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, we're silly. Well done, Newton. You're cleverer than us.
Yeah, there's no air resistance in space.
Although there is although you have the gravitational equations by Newton and more accurate equations nowadays, you still can't actually predict where a planet's going to be across time because of I don't know why it is, but even though we think we understand gravity very specifically, if you run the simulation for long enough, it always deviates from what the planet actually does.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can calculate it across enough time in that.
You can send a mission to Mars and you'll land on Mars. But if you try and calculate it across significant amount of time, our equations still don't do that accurately enough. Or it's just being pulled by other planets. And there's this really interesting thing where if you, this might be something to do an episode on one day. There was a guy who did a bunch of the equations for gravity and he put them into his computer, but the computer only printed out 3 decimal places. And when he then refed them back into the computer, only to 3 decimal places, because that's what the computer had printed out, it then
Was wrong.
was wrong very drastically, even though the input was only wrong by thousandths of a place.
Yeah.
It then across time was so deviated from the actual data that it was
wrong.
so that it will be that any other planet, any other, even an asteroid, tiny amounts of gravity pulling on things makes across time it just deviates from so drastically. So you can never truly simulate gravity.
You've got to think because everything is moving as well because everything is basically orbiting something.
Yeah.
All these planets so you've got moons that are orbiting the planets.
Yeah.
You've got planets that orbit the sun. You've got the stars that then orbit, in galaxies.
Yeah.
They orbit, say,
Yeah.
a central point of mass, probably could be a black hole or a mass at the center of a gravity of a galaxy. Then the galaxies themselves are also orbiting a center.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because if you take, for example, imagine you jump, right? You just jump now and you put a force on the Earth of a tiny, tiny degree,
Then
right?
You're pushing the Earth slightly that way.
Yeah. So imagine you jump by a tiny, tiny degree and then you measure the amount of difference that made across 100 million years, right? That is the same difference it would make if you jumped 100 million times stronger with a deviation in time by 1 year. So if you imagine that you're doing things every day, walking and jumping and stomping on stuff, across giant spans of time, that's going to have an effect on the way the universe plays out.
What's really interesting as well is that we ourselves, sending stuff off into space, we're making the Earth less massive in a tiny, tiny sense.
Sure.
But more than most planets
Yeah.
just naturally would lose
And
mass.
burning things and turning them into heat.
Oh my God, which
The
is then
heat
escaping.
escapes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, because of the, we're
getting
destroying the
lighter.
ozone layer and probably
Some of that escapes
jetting
into...
stuff off into space.
going away.
That's mental.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
We got to sort our shit out, man.
Yes.
We're just messing up the universe.
Oh, Earth's losing weight.
Now, I was saying this earlier on. I was thinking, what if, all of life is just a simulation, right? And the people that made the simulation, or the beings that made the simulation, decided that, okay, we're just gonna make, the Earth as a thing. I'll put all the stars and stuff in there. You can look at them. You can't touch them. Obviously, no one's ever gonna go there. So we'll just make them visible. And then people started looking really close. And okay, well, we'll have to render these higher.
It's called procedural rendering.
But then people start deciding to go off into space. And like, oh, right, okay,
we're gonna go there now.
Okay, let's make the moon. We've made the moon. Fine. They're not getting any farther than that. We know that. Then people make robots and
Mars.
send them off to Mars. Like, okay, Christ, we've made Mars. We've made Mars. Fine, that's it. And now we're sending robots outside of the solar system.
Oh, yeah, there's
and
one
the
that's left the
simulation is
solar
just
system.
increasing in.
And eventually we crash the computer.
Exactly. That's what's going to happen. We're just going to crash the computer because they
Oh,
didn't
great.
expect, they just wanted to simulate, say,
think we're
how
already seeing the
intelligent
effects of
life
that.
develops. And suddenly they're having to render planets upon planets upon planets
Yeah.
because they didn't expect humans to
And
want
there
to
are
get
more
off the
people,
Earth.
so they're having to render more viewpoints as well.
Exactly.
Haha! We'll get out the simulation by breeding and traveling.
Our curiosity will surely kill us.
There's a Rick and Morty episode about that, isn't there? Where they're in the simulation, and so they just get loads of people
No, to do lots of different
in
things.
the, in the simulation.
Yes, they're like,
Yeah.
if your name starts with a J, jump with the
your left hand
angle
behind-
of the sun at
Yeah.
200 years from now.
Brilliant. Rick and Morty's actually doing some good, interesting concepts.
They are.
You've got to be really intelligent to.
You have to have a particularly high IQ to understand the humor completely.
Shall we get back to Isaac Newton?
Sure.
We actually should, yeah.
Okay, so Robert Hooke, upon the publication of the first edition of Principia, Robert Hooke immediately accused Sir Isaac Newton of plagiarism. Again,
Bloody hell.
they just did not get on at all. But, you know,
Is this where Hooke's equations of motion? Is that a thing? Hooke's equations of motion?
basically, Hooke kind of had the idea that there were elliptical orbits,
Right.
and he said that that was all his idea.
Yeah.
But everyone was like, well, you didn't write it down though, did you? So,
Yeah.
you know, Newton got away with it, even if he
Yeah.
did steal it. So Newton withdrew all references to Hooke in his notes and threatened to withdraw from publishing the subsequent edition of Principia altogether because he was a drama queen.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, we think these people work with like the
Gossip
best interests of humanity at heart, and they absolutely don't.
No, they're all selfish pricks. So the Comet Man, who had
Comet Man.
he'd put a lot of himself into Newton's work, and he tried to smooth things over between the two of them, and then Newton ended up agreeing to acknowledge the Comet Man and Hooke when he was talking about inverse squares, but it did nothing to calm down Hooke. So basically, Comet Man comes in and says, "Guys, you need to chill out," and Newton's like, "Okay, fine, I guess I'll mention him," and Hooke's like, "No, I still hate him." So the years go on,
petty.
and this is really awful. Hooke's life began to unravel. His niece and companion, I think he was banging his niece.
Okay.
Oh, what?
Yep, she died.
Who was?
Hooke?
Okay.
Yeah, in 1687. And Newton just got more and more famous, and Hooke got less and less famous.
Good.
And he got more bitter and loathsome towards Newton just because Newton was doing better than him.
Did Hooke do anything impressive?
I mean, you spoke about him, didn't you?
Hooke's equations of motion, is that a thing? I think that's a thing.
Did he not start off with the
Not as popular as
wave
Isaac's,
particle
though.
thing?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did a whole episode on him.
Yeah, that's what I was
he
saying. You
very
did a whole
interesting.
episode. Go
Ah,
back to episode 10 to find out what Robert
right.
Hooke did.
No, yeah, he was really good, actually. I really liked his stuff.
Yeah, so as I said, his life was unraveling. He was still the president of the Royal Society. Now, Sir Isaac Newton wanted to be the president of the Royal Society, and
Oh.
because
Drama.
Hooke really did not like him. So instead of resigning like a normal person would,
Yeah.
he waited until he died. So
I will never live to see Isaac Newton in office.
he retired in the year of his death in 1703.
Did he know he was going to die?
He probably was just too old to really
yeah.
get
He was
be
like,
getting
all
on
right,
with it.
it's coming in a few days.
But it was a proper scientific rivalry. These guys hated each other. But I guess Isaac kind of won
Well,
in the end.
for now.
He lived longer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the wave particle duality stuff is very, very interesting and will be increasingly interesting as we move towards a quantum computing world.
That's true. I think that Newton did a fair amount, with gravity and motion and stuff, and he could probably be quite wrong. But he was wrong on some things. Einstein came in later on and said, "Yeah, it's relative," instead of being
absolute.
absolute.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't really a team player, as you've probably guessed from this entire report.
Sure.
Being the head of the Royal Society is probably not the best job for him. Apparently, he would really just defend his own discoveries, and He would just go from conflict to conflict. But because he was so powerful in the Royal Society, he would just squash anyone that bothered him. So
It's so interesting because it's always so like you want to believe that people in science to do discoveries, and then there are some. There's loads of people who are in science to kind of get personal advancement and have jobs and stuff. And then there's some brilliant people who actually make brilliant discoveries. And then some of the famous ones, you're like, they must be. No.
Well, I think Newton was just a bit of a nut, to be honest. He
Sounds like
wasn't
it.
very social. He was pretty anxious, and he had mental breakdown after mental breakdown. Just
Bit of a mess all round.
a bit of a mess.
Did a couple good things.
Yeah, so he was described as tyrannical and autocratic. In 1705, there was a controversy that had been kind of brewing for a while. A German mathematician called Gottfried Leibniz publicly accused Newton of plagiarizing his research. But luckily, since Newton was the head of the Royal Society, he got to appoint the people that did the investigation. So, unsurprisingly,
Just like our government.
yeah, exactly. So they did it. They did a big old investigation into Newton. They were like, did he plagiarize this? But given that he appointed them, no, Newton surprisingly did not plagiarize it.
Oh, no.
Whoop-de-doo. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, that's kind of the life of Newton. But as all lives end, his life ended the way that most do, with his death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did he die?
How did he die? When did he die?
How?
How?
I don't care when.
Okay, cool.
He did it.
He died at some point before now. Before Luke was born, so it doesn't matter. It didn't happen.
Didn't actually happen.
Actually, I've made everything on this podcast up because nothing before Luke ever existed.
This is so fascinating.
This is just like a big story time.
It's
Isn't
just
it?
story time to send Luke to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, go home, sleep now.
Got another episode to record. I can't go to sleep.
So by the time he was about 80, he started experiencing digestion problems because, of course, he did. And he changed his diet and everything. In March of 1727, he was 84. And he had a severe pain in his abdomen. And then he blacked out and he just didn't wake up. And that's how he died.
Oh,
It doesn't say how he died. He just had a stomach pain
Unceremonious.
and then
that's generally most deaths, though.
was gone. Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah, dead. And that's the end of Sir Isaac Newton.
Wait.
Yay.
Oh, wait. Are we cheering that?
Well, I mean, he was a bit of a dickhead, wasn't he?
Hey! Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas to
Merry
Jesus
Christmas.
too. Sir Isaac Newton. He didn't come back, though. Thank you for watching. You can find the full references for this episode in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday, and why not leave us a nice wee comment? You can find and contact us at SCI GUYS Pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or you can Patreon us at patreon.com/SCI GUYS. I'm not Corey everywhere.
I'm Jenkins everywhere.
I'm Luke Cupforth everywhere.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!